Hello and welcome back, my dear students, once again to your YouTube channel. In this video, I shall be continuing with the short story Atithi or Guest by Rabindranath Tagore. The first part is already there in my channel. If you haven't watched it, I would request you to kindly go and watch it. At the earliest, I would be providing the link to you in the first comment section. All right. So, without further ado, let's get started. Yes, for those of you who do not know, Atithi is for my class 12 children. Okay. So, Atithi, the guest by Rabindranath Tagore. Now, we had stopped at that position where this Tarapodo had started living on the boat with the family of Motilal Babu and his wife and the girl, the daughter. So, from there, we will start. Tarapodo took no notice of Nondigram when they passed it. This is very interesting because Tarapodo had come and requested Motilal Babu to drop him to Nondigram. But when they are passing Nondigram, he does not take heed of it. Why? Perhaps because, for the time being, the boat journey along with the new acquaintances, he had already started enjoying their company, Motilal Babu and his wife. So, along with the new acquaintances, was far more appealing to him, and he could mix with people very easily. Okay, and I would see it in this way that his interactions with those people provided him with an opportunity to taste life and acquire experiences in a different way. Okay, that's why he doesn't take notice of Nondigram, and also at the same time, this for him to take not no for him not to take notice of Nondigram is important from dramatic perspective also. He would be going to Kathalia now, where the rest of the story is supposed to unfold. Okay. The large boat, sometimes with its sails up, sometimes stowed, proceeded slowly on down rivers and tributaries, and the days of the passengers too flowed with a soft and easy pace, though the pace and beauty of the scene. No one was in any kind of hurry, so because it was a village, life was slow. Long afternoons were spent bathing and eating, and as soon as dusk fell, the boat was moored at a village cart by the trees, buzzing with crickets and aglow with fireflies. After about 10 days of this, the boat arrived at Kathalia. Ponies and palanquin were sent from the house to receive the zamindar. A guard of honor fired rounds of blank raucously echoed by the village crows. So, when the zamindar Babu, Motilal Babu, arrived at Kathalia, he received a grand welcome. Raucously is in a loud way. Meanwhile, Tarapodo slipped off the boat and quickly looked round the village, calling one villager Dada, another Kuro, another Didi, and another Masi. He established friendly relations with everyone in a couple of hours. Because he had no normal ties, he could get to know people with amazing ease and speed. This is very important. Within a few days, he had won all hearts. So we see in Tarapodo a deep feeling of identification, sympathy, and affection for human beings in general. He mixed with everyone on equal terms. He was unconventional, yet able to adapt to any situation or work. With boys, he was a boy, yet somehow separate and special. With older people, he was not a boy, yet not too precocious. Precocious is mature. With herders, he was a herder, yet also a Brahmin. He joined in with things as if used to them all his life. He would be chatting in the sweet shop. The sweet maker would say, "Could you mind the shop for a while? I shan't be long." Cool as a cucumber, Tarapodu sat there keeping the flies of the sweet meats. So apart from cooking, apart from cutting the fish and all, apart from mixing with people freely, all these life skills were possessed, were learned, were ingrained by Tarapodu. He could even make sweets himself, knew something of a weaving, and was not completely ignorant of how to turn a potter's wheel. So a lot of life skills he had learned. Tarapodo reigned over the whole village. There was just one young girl whose hatred he simply could not overcome. Perhaps it was because this girl so fiercely wished him to leave that he stayed on so long, such an oxymoron. That the girl wanted him to leave, but he stayed on. But Charu Shashi now proved how hard it is to fathom is to understand even a juvenile female mind. Juvenile is young and immature. Bamun Thakuran's daughter, Shonamoni, had been widowed at the age of 5. Now, you will realize this, children, that was a different society back then. Indian society back then was very different. So, girls were married off very early and they would be married off with old men. Okay, extremely old and senile men they would be married off. So, this girl, Shonamoni, by the time she was 5, she was already a widow. A girl barely of 5-year old. Mm, She was Charu's playmate. She had been ill for a while and had not been able to go out to see her friend. When she recovered and came to see her, a rift between them came about for almost no reason fight. Charu had been speaking at length about Tarapodo, she hoped, by saying what a precious asset he was. Why was he considered an asset? Because of the innumerable life skills he knew, he mastered, and also for his ability to mix freely with people. To astonish and intrigue her friend. Intrigue is to fascinate. But when she discovered he was known to Shonamuni, that he called Bamun Thakurun Masi and that Sonamuni called him Dada, when she heard he has not treated mother and daughter to kirtan tunes on his flute, but had, at Shonamuni's request, made her a bamboo flute, that he had picked her fruits from high branches and flowers from thorny ones. When she heard all this, darts of fire stabbed her, so she became extremely jealous because all this while she had thought that Tarapodo was only her possession. But now that Tarapodo has, even others have access to Tarapodo, especially Shonamuni and her family, she is infuriated. She had thought of Tarapodo as their Tarapodo, guarded closely so that ordinary people might glimpse him, yet never be able to grasp him, yet they would admire his beauty and talents from a distance. So intense possessiveness, and Charushashi's family would gain glory thereby. Why should Shonamuni have such easy contact with this singular, divinely favored Brahmin boy? She did not like that others having access to Tarapodo. If Charu's family had not taken him in, had not looked after him, so how would Shonamuni ever have seen him? Shonamuni's Dada indeed, she burnt all over at the thought. Why was Charu, who had tried to strike the boy down with arrows of hatred, so anxious to claim sole rights over him? Understand this who will. Later that day, Charu had a serious rift fight with Shonamuni over another trivial matter. Trivial is insignificant. She marched into Tarapodu's room, found his beloved flute, and casually jumped and stamped on it, so she was desperate to break it. She was still doing so when Tarapodo came in. This is out of extreme jealousy and enviousness. He was amazed by the image of destruction that the girl presented. Charu, why are you smashing my flute? He asked. I want to smash it. I'm going to smash it, shouted Charu, because she was so annoyed that even Shonamuni has access to it. To you. I do not like it. And how would she take that anger out? By smashing the flute. I want to smash it, I'm going to smash it, shouted Charu with red eyes and flushed face, and stamping unnecessarily on the already smashed flute, she burst into loud sobs and ran from the room. Tarapodo picked up the pieces, turned them this way and that, but it was useless. To wreak destruction on his old innocent flute was so absurd that he burst out laughing. Charushashi intrigued him more every day. He was also intrigued by the English illustrated books in Motilal Babu's library. Tarapodo had considerable knowledge of the world, but he could not enter the world of these pictures at all because it was in English. Tarapodo did not know English, so he could not fathom what is written. So, what is interesting to note here is Tarapodo's quest for knowledge. He's intensely interested in learning. He tried to do so in his imagination but found no satisfaction in this. Seeing his interest in these books, Motilal said one day, "Would you like to learn English? You will understand these pictures then." "I would like to learn it," he replied at once. Motilal Babu engaged the headmaster of the village secondary school, Ramratan Babu, to teach the boy English each evening. Tarapada set about learning English with great concentration and retention. It released him into a hidareto, that is, however, inaccessible realm, because many people did not know English education. What it does is it opens your doors to the world. Okay, because it's a foreign language, it is a language of the other country, so people get to know about what is happening in the other world, in the other countries. Okay, so Tarapodo did not have that access till now. Now that he is learning English, he's being able to read English, he's getting to know what are the things happening outside world. So his quest for knowledge, unconnected with his former world. The local people saw no more of him. At dusk, he went to the empty riverside to pace swiftly up and down, reciting his lessons. His boyish devotees mournfully watched him from a distance. They dared not disturb his studies. Charu too did not see much of him now. Formerly, Tarapodo ate in the women's quarters under Annapurna's loving gaze. But because this could take a long time, he asked Motilal Babu to arrange for him to eat outside. Annapurna was hurt and objected, but Motilal was so pleased by Tarapodo's keenness to learn that he agreed to the new arrangement. Annapurna did not like this idea that Tarapodo would be away from her. But then, since Motilal Babu has instructed, the man of the house supposedly has instructed, so she is bound to follow that. Charu now insisted that she too wanted to learn English. Now, actually, Charu did not want to learn English. Okay. She wanted to remain in close periphery with Tarapodo. So she wanted to learn English. Now, in those days, it was a big thing for girls to go to school. If you have read Ashapurna Devi's Shubharnulata, you would know how much fight people had to put up to send young girls to school, let alone come the English education, have access to English education. So here, this Charu is asking for English education. So it was very absurd that if you do not even know how to read and learn, you are asking for English education. Charudao insisted that she too wanted to learn English at first. Her parents were amused by their wayward daughter's new idea, lovingly laughed at it because they found it absurd. But its absurdity was soon washed away by tears. Doting parents as they were forced to give in, and she started to study alongside Tarapodo with the same tutor. Study, however, was alien to her restless nature. She was very ill mannered, we've seen that. She learned nothing herself, merely disrupted Tarapodo's learning. She fell far behind but couldn't learn anything by heart, but couldn't bear to be behind. If Tarapodo overtook her and moved on to a new lesson, she was furious and burst into tears. When he finished an old book and bought a new one, she had to buy the new book too. In his spare time, he would sit in his room, learning and writing his lesson. The jealous girl could stand this. She would secretly come and pour ink on his exercise book, steal his pen, even tear the passage he had been set to learn. So, this is how she would disturb Tarapodo. Tarapodo bore most of this with amusement. If she went too far, he slapped her, but was quite unable to control her. A chance occurrence saved him. One day, truly annoyed, he tore up his ink spilt exercise book and sat gloomily. Gloomily is sadly. Charu came to the door and prepared herself for a beating. Okay, but nothing happened. Tarapodo went on sitting in silence. The girl went in and out of the room. Several times she came so close that Tarapodo could, if he had wished, easily have thwacked her on the back. But he did not do that and remained solemn as calm. The girl was in a quandary, dilemma. How to ask for forgiveness was something she had never learned, yet she was extremely anxious for forgiveness. Finally, seeing no other way, she took a piece of the torn exercise book, sat down next to Tarapada, and wrote in large round letters, I will never pour ink on your exercise book again. So she doesn't say sorry, but she says that she's never going to repeat what she's done. She then made elaborate efforts to attract his attention. At this, Tarapada could not contain himself more and he burst out laughing. The girl dashed from the room, overcome with shame and anger. Only if she had been able to take out from all time the paper on which she had humbled herself, would her fury been eased. During this period, Shonamuni had once or twice, with her heart in her mouth, lurked outside the lesson room. She'd been walking around. She was close to her friend Charushashi in most matters, but with regard to Tarapodo, she feared and distrusted her because Charu was immensely possessive about Tarapodo. At moments when Charu was in the women's quarter, she would stand timidly outside Tarapodo's door. He would look up from his book and say tenderly, What is it, Shona? What's up? How is Mashi? Shonamuni would say, You haven't been to see us for a long time. Mother wishes you would sometime. She has backache, so she can't come to you. Charu would perhaps now appear. Shonamuni was flustered. Flustered? Make somebody feel nervous and confused. She felt like a thief. Charu would scowl and shriek at her. Well, Sona, coming to disturb our studies, I'll tell my father. As if she herself was Tarapado's guardian. She did not study herself. On the contrary, she would constantly, warn Shonamuni that, see, you're coming to disturb us. Okay, we'll let our father know. But God was not aware of what her actual motive was in coming to Tarapodo's room at this odd time, and Tarapodo also knew it well. Poor Sonamuni fumbled, make awkward gesture for false explanations when Charu venomously called her a liar. She withdrew, sick at heart, defeated. The kindly Tarapodo would call her and say, Shona, I'll come to your house this evening. Charu hissed back like a snake, How can you go? What about your lessons? I'll tell the teacher. Undaunted by Charu's threat, Tarapodu spent a couple of evenings at Bamuntakrun's house. On the third day, Charu, without further warning, quietly bolted his lock. She was so annoyed with this fact that Tarapodu is going to Shonamuni's house and staying that she bolted him from outside and was opening the door when it was sorry. On the third day, Charu, without further warning, quietly bolted his door and, fetching the padlock from her mother's spice box, locked him in. She kept him prisoner for the whole evening, only opening the door when it was time to eat. Tarapodu was angrily silent and was about to go out without eating. Then the passionate, overawed girl clasped her hands and cried out repeatedly, I promise you, cross my heart, that I won't do it again. Please, I beg you, eat before you go. So she was pleading. Even when this had no effect, she began to wail. Wail is to cry, cry in a profuse manner. And he was forced to turn back and eat. Almost 2 years passed like this, so Tarapodo had stayed back for a long time. Tarapodo had never moved himself to anyone for so long. Maybe his studies had a hold on him, or maybe he was changing as he grew up. He was developing a kind of softness towards this family. And a stable existence in a comfortable house had more appeal than before. Maybe the beauty of his study companion, even if she had been constantly bad tempered, was exerting an unconscious influence. Probably she had started liking Charu too. Meanwhile, Charu had reached the age of 11. Motilal Babu had sought out 2 or 3 good marriage offers. Now that she had reached marriageable age, he placed a ban on English books and outside visits. She kicked up a terrible fuss at these new restrictions because she was extremely uncontrollable. Then one day, Annapurna called Motilal and said, Why search outside for a groom? Tarapadu would make a fine husband. and your daughter likes him. Motilal Babu was astonished at this suggestion. That's impossible, he said. We don't know anything about his family because at the end of the day, he's a zamindar. He just cannot give his daughter away to any family person. Most importantly, this also brings out his concern as a father. Uh, we don't know anything about his family. She's my only daughter. I want to marry her well. Some people came from Zamindar's house at Raidanga to look at the girl. Efforts were made to dress Charu up. She shut herself in the room because she did not want to present herself in front of the boy's family because she already had developed feelings for Tarapod. Motilal Babu begged and rebuked her from outside, but without result. Finally, he had to lie to the delegation from Raidanga. His daughter had suddenly fallen ill and could not be seen today. They assumed from this lame excuse that the girl had some kind of defect. Motilal Babu started to reflect, think that Tarapadu was indeed good to look at. Good in every outward aspect. He could keep him at home, so his only daughter would not have to go to someone else's house. He realized that his truculent daughter's foible, truculent is aggressive, because the daughter was extremely ill mannered. He was well aware of that. Shortcomings, foibles are shortcomings, which he and his wife could smile at, would not be received so well by in laws. So, what Motilal Babu was thinking is, as parents, they were putting up with the daughter's misbehavior. And by now, since Tarapada had been staying for so many days with them, he has somehow managed to put up with this girl's misbehavior. So Tarapada also knows about Charu. So Tarapada wouldn't mind that much. After lengthy discussion, Motilal and Annapurna sent a man to Tarapadu's village to find out about his family. The information came that it was poor but high caste. Motilal Babu then sent a marriage proposal to the boy's mother and brothers. They were well pleased and agreed to it at once. They were happy. Back at Katalia, Motilal and Annapurna discussed the day and hour of the wedding. But the naturally cautious Motilal kept the whole matter secret. He did not reveal anything to Tarapodo. Charu, though, could not be restricted. She sometimes burst into Tarapodo's room like a cavalry charge, disturbing his studies with crossness, eagerness, or scorn. Sometimes detached and independent though he was, he felt a strange stirring in his heart, so he was somehow moved at this, a sort of electrical impulse. Till now, he had floated lightly and serenely without impediment on time's stream. Sometimes now he was snared by strange, distracting daydreams. So, because he's also growing up, his hormones are also running wild. Things have started ringing a bell in his mind as well, maybe unconsciously. And he would leave his studies and go into Motilal Babu's library and flick through the pages of the illustrated books. The imaginary world, which he mixed with these pictures, was much changed, much more highly colored than before. He could not laugh at Charu's strange behavior quite as he had done in the past. When she was bad, he never thought of beating her now. This deep change, this powerful feeling of attraction was like a new dream. So it was a dream-like thing for Tarapoto. Motilal Babu fixed the wedding for the month of Shravan. Shravan is your monsoon. And sent word to Tarapado's mother and brothers, but did not inform Tarapado himself. This was a blunder he made. He told his Mukhtar is, the assistant manager kind of thing, in Calcutta to hire a trumpet and drum band, and he ordered everything else that would be needed for the wedding. Meanwhile, at Kurulkata, on the Nag family estate, a famous chariot festival was due to be held. One moonlit evening, Tarapado went to the ghat and saw, on the swift flood tide, boats with merry-go-rounds and jatra troops and cargo boats rapidly making for the fair. And we've seen on previous occasion how these things attracted Tarapado. An orchestra from Calcutta was practicing loudly as it passed. The jatra troupe was singing, and violin Jatra troupe was singing to violin accompaniment, shouting out the boatmen from lands to the west, split the sky with cymbals and thudding drum. Cymbals are also round shaped drums. Such excitement. Then clouds from the east covered the moon with the huge black sails. An east wind blew sharply. Cloud after cloud rolled by. The river gushed and swelled. So there's topsy turvy in nature. Nature had started giving out signals that something is definitely going to be wrong. We've seen that in Macbeth Act 1, Scene 1, when there was extreme thunder and lightning, how the witches had come in to give out the details that they are going to tamper with the soul of Macbeth. Also, we've seen that in the case of Julius Caesar, also. Okay, now here also we see nature giving out symbols. To Tarapodu, the whole world seemed like a chariot festival, wheels turning, flags flying, earth trembling, clouds swirling, wind rushing, river flowing, boats sailing, songs rising. So there's music, there is a lot of movement in the outer world, in the outer space. And the macrocosm, the outer world, the turbulence in the microcosm, the outer world is going to exert its influence on microcosm, that is, on Tarapodo. There were rumbles of thunder and slashes of lightning in the sky. The smell of torrential rain approached from the dark distance. But Kathalia village, next to the river, ignored all of this. The signal was ignored. She shut her doors, turned out her lamps, and went to sleep. The following morning, Tarapadu's mother and brothers arrived at Kathalia, and at the same morning, three large boats from Calcutta laden with things for the wedding moved at the Zamindar's house. And very early that same morning, Shonamuni bought some mango juice preserved in paper and some pickle wrapped in leaf and timidly stood outside Tarapadu's room. But Tarapadu was nowhere to be seen. In a cloudy monsoon night, before love and emotional ties could encircle him completely, this Brahmin boy, thief of all hearts in the village, had returned to the unconstraining, unemotional arms of his mother earth. So, Tarapodu is a symbol of freedom, innocence, and detachment. He would not remain in one place for long. So, the moment he vanishes, what does it symbolize? It symbolizes that Tarapodo unleashes himself from the bindings of relationships and fades into the realm of oblivion, into nature, proving that he was just an Atithi. And therein comes the justification of the title. He was just an Atithi, a guest who was here to stay for just a few days and not forever. Through Tarapodo, Tagore has portrayed an ideal child of nature. Tarapodo is a symbol of freedom, innocence, and detachment. Alright, so that's the story, my dear students. I hope you've enjoyed the session with me. If you like this video, kindly do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also to share it with your friends. Okay, see you in the next video very soon. Till then, take good care of your health and goodbye.